Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. So hello everyone, hope you're well. I'm in the Bhikkhu Library. Venerable Vipassi, Venerable Amarasiri, Venerable Siri Meadow, and Jordan are with me. And this Buddha here is made of which wood? Hibiscus wood from Bali. It's Balinese. It's quite spectacular, huh? So it's a sort of Mahayana, Avalokiteshvara kind of posture. And then the tanka, you can just see the bottom of the tanka behind me. That was, I think, Chunda got that right. That one of the monks, when he was a layman, was actually in Tibet. So it's a beautiful tanka. So monasteries have this great good karma of receiving objects of art, but objects of religious contemplation. So they're not just objet d'art, they're actually for contemplation. And people are very generous, so we have all kinds of beautiful, beautiful things. So this short retreat is for till Saturday morning, is it? Yep, Saturday morning. A la Zoom. So I guess most of you are in Toronto. I don't quite know where you are. Some of you I recognize. And all I can say is that springtime here in Perth is very, very beautiful. I think all the songbirds have arrived and the rodents are happy. There's lots of grass for the deer. And, we're we live in Shangri-La, actually. It's very nice here. So we have a small community, and we have finished our winter retreat, and now we're into our usual yearly schedule of work and meditation. So it's very, very quiet. Some people come to offer dana, but we have no circulation of guests as we usually do. So hopefully, with the vaccinations, folk can come and visit and stay with us again, and maybe I could go down to Toronto and see how you're doing. But here we are, thanks to Zoom. So much merit to Zoom and all the technological people who have made this possible, all the IT workers and so on and so forth. And we have a new computer here. So we're very upmarket right now. So what should we consider now that I've introduced myself? So for me, the project of Buddhism is kind of twofold. It's kind of, there's the kind of Bodhisattva project and the Arahant project. And to be honest, I don't quite know what those words mean. So the longer I live as a monk, the less I can define things exactly. So they're more like aspirations, or they're certainly not canonical the way I talk about them. But when you've been a monk for a while, you can get away with a lot. So the kind of Bodhisattva idea for me is that it's my yearning that all beings be free from suffering. And that's, how can I fulfill that yearning? And the other one is the yearning to come home. And both are important for me. And I think we all have that, don't we? The yearning to come home. The way Ajahn Chah used the idea of freedom or enlightenment as your real home. And that really appeals to me, appeals to many people. And yet I live in a world, in a society where beings are also seeking to get out of suffering and be free. And so that if I only had the yearning to come home, then I think my life would end up being a kind of quietism, away from the complexities and responsibilities of life. Well, as a monk, I've got it pretty simple. So there is a bit of quietism in my life. But if I didn't have that expressive side of myself, how could I express a generosity or joy? And what would be the avenues for developing compassion? It might be very abstract, but the realistic avenue of people and situations to me is very, very important. So those are the two sort of hobbies I'm involved with as a monk. And the hobby of like being a good person, an interesting hobby, no? Right? Just kind of, what am I going to do today? Well, actually, I'm trying to renovate a canoe. Oh, it's difficult. It's a can of worms. So that's one kind of hobby. But within that, I can also develop the hobby of trying to be a good person, not swearing at the canoe or doing things like that, but actually saying in this day, what is it about my character that would be a benefit to others, and what is it about my character which is not really such a benefit to others? And that project of our humanity, it's very hard to do without it being a kind of a constant judgment of inadequacies or a constant inner critique of imperfections, because that is not the way of good craft. That's just the way of aversion. And as we all know, it doesn't work. And then the other way, coming home, home isn't an external place, is it? It's not Tisarana. It's not. A good home is nice. I mean, a monastery is nice. It's helpful. But, our real home really is somehow related to that silence of awareness and knowing. And the more we can recognize that and abide as that, the more we have confidence that, that is the path. And that, to some extent, seems to be the goal, too. And these are nebulous things, right? They're just, confidence is an intuitive thing that comes from basically the craft of meditation actually working, that it works. How does it work? Well, only you can know, only I can know, right? No one else can say that it does or it doesn't. So that yearning to come home is not mutually exclusive from the yearning for others to be free from suffering, because it's actually the same path. Because the way I can come home is through compassion and through joyous connection with others, because that uplifts my heart to such a way where I'm not seeking externals. I don't need distractions. I don't need to get away from my own mind, get away from myself, as it were. And then also, if there is that craft of human interrelationship, which is difficult, if I take that as the challenge, the people that I find irksome or a situation to bring up fear and anxiety and so on and so forth, they actually become, that's the canoe. That's the restoration work that I have to do. And I can kind of swear at the canoe, or I can swear at myself, or I can say, no, wait. Just keep at it, mate. Okay, there's a lot of rot there, but if you keep working at it, results will come. And those results of one's own personhood can be very slow, can't they? I'm 70. I'm into my 75th year now, and it's been a long haul. I've really worked hard, actually. But it says the habits of greed, hatred, and delusion are pernicious. They're just, they're just vicious sometimes, aren't they? They won't let go of your mind. So you need a strong sense of determination, but it's not the determination of sheer willpower. It's the determination of the contemplative. And the contemplative brings forth a questioning attitude, an inquiring attitude into the nature of suffering and the end of suffering, be it suffering vis-a-vis people and situations, or vis-a-vis one's own meditation practice. My own kind of entry into that silence of awareness came from, first of all, as a child. Somehow I was touching that silence, and that became a a kind of an unseen driving force in the trajectory of my life, in ways I didn't even know sometimes. And that, of course, brought me to monkhood. But before that, then I came across Krishnamurti, and that was very, very influential for me. So awareness is sort of, and the inquiry into awareness itself is pretty central to my spiritual life. The inquiry into abstract ideas isn't very central. So, like things like Abhidhamma or commentaries on suttas and all that, I found that too wordy for me. So I'm not very good with kind of scriptural words. But the words I really enjoy are contemplative words, which are simple words that require a kind of that are conducive to a kind of awakening inquiry into the nature of consciousness, into the nature of awareness, but not with the idea that some kind of a conclusion in thought will result. I'm not interested in thought, because I know thought, I mean, I am interested in thought in some way, but in this coming home, I realize it cannot be a thought. Home cannot be an idea or a perception or a construct. And so I'm always left with, well, what's left there? It's that silence of knowing. It's the silence of knowing, the ineffable silence of knowing. And then the more I can touch that, and the more I can intuit and the more I have the confidence to say, yeah, that's it. That's it. Then there's less and less need to go anywhere, to do anything, to become anything. And yet, in the Bodhisattva part of my life, as it were, there's lots to do. There's people to see, and canoes to fix, and canoes to be taken out for a paddle, and retreats to be done, and teeth to be brushed, and so on and so forth. So there's lots to do. But when you come home, it's not a doing, it's a being, it's a knowing, it's coming home. You come home, you're home. Yeah, okay, I'm home. You don't have to go anywhere, right? I don't have to go. I'm here, I'm home. So if you get both of those, then the doing becomes, it's not so much about me getting something done, it's about staying home in my doing, if you see what I mean. Staying home in my speaking, staying home in my handcraft, or staying home when I brush my teeth. And that's mindfulness, isn't it? The simple ideas of mindfulness. Chopping wood, it's a Zen thing, isn't it? Verindo, chopping wood and carrying water, right? And they seem like so it's simple, isn't it? Yeah, well, it is simple. It is so utterly simple. It evades us. So then mindfulness is not concentration. So I think all of us, again, I don't know what mindfulness means either anymore. I mean, it's used in so many varieties, but I know that I can do something with presence, or I can do something with absence. Brush my teeth and forget that I brushed my teeth. Simple enough. And when you start to see that your real home, when I have confidence in my real home, then the presence of doing becomes just so very obvious. What else would I do? What else would I do but chop wood and carry water? It's not, it's not rocket science. But when I think that life is a becoming and a getting and an acquisition, even in spiritual experiences, then I'm always leaning forward into the future, and I'm never receptive to the present moment. And if I'm not receptive to the present moment, and I'm leaning forward into becoming or getting or judging or analyzing or fixing and all of that, and I don't realize that my real home is nowhere else, then I'm not available for my real home. I'm not available for silence. And yet, silence is always there. It's curious, isn't it? Listen to sound, voila, there's silence. Feel your hands, there's silence. Thought's more difficult, isn't it? Thought's the tricky one. Because it seems like you're the thinker. Huh? But are you the thinker? Okay, then stop thinking. You can't, because thought arises. Thought's like bird song. Sometimes it sounds like a vulture or something in there. But thought is simply, like, there's deliberate thought, right? And like 2 and 2 for, and so on and so forth. Calculative thought. We were reading earlier, calculative thought, where we calculate things. And thought is individual. Your thoughts are the thoughts that you experience are the thoughts that I experience, certainly. But aren't thoughts just like kind of memory connections, habits through memory connections? They get triggered by one thing, they condition something else. So the great challenge in coming home quite often is at first, I think, before we enter a kind of reflective path, we might be just sort of lost in thought. We believe in our angers and believe in our anxieties and fears and just sort of go for it all the time. And then we become more reflective and we notice, wow, look at that thought. I can notice my thinking, which is a fabulous insight, which is a big step in the contemplative, the primary step. So you notice that, there's thought is an object. I'm thinking angry thoughts, or there's fearful thoughts. Then, of course, the problem is we have the desire to get rid of thought. And it seems that if I can get rid of thinking, then I'll touch the silence. Yeah, but as long as I am trying to get rid of thought, then I'm still out. I'm away from my real home. I'm sort of out in the neighborhood of thought and struggling with thought and getting beaten up by thought. And then I give up, and then I'm home again. It happens, doesn't it? He said, I give up. And then all of a sudden there's silence again. Oh, home again. What was that about? Well, that was about non-desire. Non-desire, receptivity, awareness is your real home. Non-becoming is your real home. Non-aversion is your real home. Non-resistance is your real home. These are different ways that we try to awaken to that truth constantly, again and again. So with thought, what for me the important insight was the kind of feeling when I'm noticing thought is I've got to try harder, or I've got to do something about this thought, and then I try harder. But I was outside of the territory of my real home again because I was trying to get rid of thought. And then for some reason I just actually that just came up and went, and the awareness was always there. So one of the phrases I've been using on these Zoom talks is like, is presence ever absent? That's the kind of contemplative play I really enjoy. I enjoy bringing up a kind of weird question, a Viradhammo question kind of to myself. Now, I'm not looking for an answer. Is presence ever absent? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Because that's not it. It's not a calculative kind of thought. It's the contemplative thought, which then, it brings me to silence. And that one I find very, very useful for the thinking mind. Is presence ever absent? And then from that kind of contemplation, you notice that actually presence is always there. Thought comes and goes. Ego comes and goes. Self comes and goes. Time comes and goes. But the presence is timeless, not a matter of time. It's always here and now. And so then that's very helpful because you see that, thought. And then when you let go of the aversion to thought, that's a big step, because then the tendency then to be reactive and go out and try to do something about the thinking, that begins to fall away, and thought is seen much more naturally, and the silence of the mind your real home becomes more apparent. You have more confidence. So I would say, in your meditations or in your life, look at how like memory will condition thought, and look at how someone asked, just did a Zoom with some friends in Ireland, and someone asked about despair, and because they're very concerned about the planet and all kinds of things in that vein, and said, what do I do about despair? And you think about, like, what do I need to do to keep something going, rather than like, what am I doing to keep a mind state going? What am I doing to keep despair going? Don't I need to stimulate it with despairing imagery? or thought? Isn't that what I need to do? Rather than looking at it the other way, right? You look at it the other, what do I need to do to get rid of despair? And the other way to look at it is why does my attention keep abiding with despair? What is it about that? Without dismissing the real problems that exist in the environment or human cultures. And that is the way of memory, isn't it? Like if I really resent someone and resent something that happened to me, and the memory of some pain comes up, and then I'll never forgive them or something like that. And then when I have that thought, then the other thought I bring into it, I shouldn't be thinking like that. I'm away from home, right? So I go from the old resentment memory, blah, 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 and then I shouldn't be thinking that. And it's just all away from your real home. But your real home is, resentment's like this. Resentment creates these kinds of thoughts. And then you're no longer dwelling as resentment, but you're dwelling as witness to change. That's very freeing, isn't it? And there's not a judgment about resentment. Memory works that way. You know, if someone really hurts you and that memory comes up, you're not going to feel great about it. Oh, you hurt me, great. It's always going to be a rotten memory. And so there's rotten memories and there's lovely memories. It's the way memory works. But the question is not that. The question is why does attention dwell there or dwell in aversion to that? So the awakened mind then begins to see memory as memory. And the narratives of self as narratives determined by that, one determining another. Might be something else. It might be the memory of fixing a canoe or a project or something like that. Yeah. So, okay, a project, that's more inspiring than despair, but still, if I just keep running the project with the craft, with the creative impulse, not wrong, I might have to do some calculating around it, but that's where my mind goes. I'm away from home again. So the memory of the creative project comes up, and I go for it because that's nice. That's nice to do. Blah, 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 blah. And then, shut up. And then I try to get rid of that thought. And it's the same thing. I'm not home. I don't know how to stay home. But if you see memory as memory, there's the memory of doing something. And why is the memory there? Well, because I did it. I did it this morning. So what else is it going to do? It's going to come up. I had an argument this morning. What else is it going to do? It's going to come up. It's very natural. And so to see memory as memory, that's very helpful, isn't it? That's just a memory. And then and watch it want to go into creating a sense of self, creating a narrative, and memories like this, fantasies like this, despairs like this. So you start to get behind the creation of thought to the arising of memory. Memory might be pleasant or unpleasant, whatever. And how memory, the contact of memory creates a sense of self. And as you put that like kind of contemplative question, is presence ever absent? As you start to put that in, you start to go out less, you start to stay home more, I would say. That question keeps me home, which is the silence of knowing, the silence of awareness. The hobby or the craft of personhood is a tricky one, because I think all of us who are part of this gathering are really motivated to goodness, right? We wouldn't be sitting quietly if we were doing really horrible things, because we couldn't sit quietly if we were doing horrible things. It'd be too horrible to sit quietly. Just the nature of horribleness. But our life is filled with goodness. We have very, very high values and high intentions and high sense of moral rectitude and so on. And the problem there is, of course, the idealism, the attachment to idealism. Ideals are fine, but the attachment to idealism then is the source of great guilt and self-disparagement and coyotes. Can you hear? Not outside your window, outside mine. Anyways, the coyotes are howling. So So the project of being a better person isn't so much becoming. It's more like seeing, say, pettiness or anger or fear, seeing them as objects, and no longer becoming the subject of them. And that means that the attachment to idealism that we have, that I shouldn't be angry and I should have, I should be much better, I've been practicing for so many years, we start to see that structure is not home. That's not who you are. You're not this person who should be better. Your real home is silent awareness. And in silent awareness, when that is more and more established, trusted, known, as it were, then the arising of attitudes which don't make for very good personhood, attitudes of jealousy or resentment, they can be known. They're not a threat. To idealism, they're a threat. To the ideals that you have or what you should be, jealousy is a very threatening emotion. But if your real home is not emotional, it's silent, then it can know these emotions without being threatened by them. I've often thought, like, parents who are just like fed up with their kids. It must be very hard. You're supposed to love them all the time. But how could you not be fed up with your kids? Stuff I did to my parents, I hope they were fed up with me. But I could imagine that could be a very threatening emotion. Like, oh, shut up, Johnny. Or whatever it might be. And yet what could be more natural than just to be exhausted and fed up with your kids? What could be more natural? Again, I don't know. I don't speak as a parent. Maybe it's not a problem. You just know that happens. But to idealism, some emotions are very threatening. But to your real home, they're not threatening, because home is, everyone's welcome. Oh, hello, jealousy. Haven't seen you all week. Come on in. And that's the idea of the home awareness that accepts all things, rejects none. And hence, home is also compassion and kindness. And it's not a kind of emotionally vapid place that has no feeling or sensitivity in it. What does vapid mean anyway? I'm not sure. Anyway, it sounded like a good word. So your real home is vibrant with energy, isn't it? Like, silence is vibrant with energy. It's not just a kind of toned down quietism that has no vitality in it. And so our relationship to our own emotional life is one of accepting everything. It's all nature. It's all natural. It's natural to feel fed up and jealous and resentful, and because it's Dharma, isn't it? What's the Dharma of jealousy? Well, it's the same as the Dharma of joy. It arises and ceases. It begins and ends. That's Dharma. But the more we choose to act and speak through those activities which are unifying, like compassion and kindness, the more those are enhanced and emphasized, and the personality becomes that. Not me becoming that. It's just natural. It's the Dharma. It's the Dharma of emphasis. It's just the Dharma of emphasis. You emphasize one. But idealism then gets us in a real tizzy, doesn't it? And so you really look at, like, the self-judgments and the guilts, and these are all culturally laid upon us. They're developed through cultural norms and what our parents said and what our society said, what is right and what is wrong. In Buddhism, say, we have the 5 precepts. So it's wrong to kill, but it's not wrong to hate. Right? Pursuing hatred is stupid, right? It's not wrong to be angry. That's not wrong. It's just don't believe in it. Right? Don't live your life in hatred. That's not a good deal. But killing, no, we don't do that. So there's difference. Taking that which is not given, right? And stealing it's you might want to steal your neighbor's lawnmower or something, but you don't do it. You may kind of be jealous of your neighbor's jacuzzi. Our electrician was here today, and he said that the waiting list for jacuzzis is 2 years. Everyone's sitting home not knowing what to do. I want a jacuzzi. So don't worry about the jacuzzi. So you may feel jealous, but that's Dharma. That's just the Dharma of having an emotional heart and having a culturally conditioned ego and all of that. That's all Dharma, isn't it? But that's not your real home. Cultural conditioning isn't your real home. Silent awareness of that as a changing thing is your real home. And so that's what we emphasize on Anicca Dukkha Anatta. This is this feeling of beauty or ugliness or whatever. It's natural. It's Dharma, the Dharma of suchness, of this. And yet we act and speak in ways which are in the project of the Bodhisattva, in the project of caring for others as much as we can. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we're too exhausted or too angry or too fed up. We just got to have to take care of number one. Just, okay, I got to just hunker down, get in a quiet room and let this all settle down, which is taking care of everyone, because you're part of everyone, aren't you, right? And then that rejuvenates us. So meditation, these retreats are so very, very important. A kind of rejuvenation of heart, rejuvenation of connection, of your real home. And it's a great learning, isn't it? Sitting quietly doing nothing is a fabulous laboratory. What could be a better laboratory than your own mind? And you better learn about it quick, because that's what we really have to learn about. So in the crucible of sitting quietly for an hour or 45 minutes, you do learn a lot, don't you? If you make it interesting. If you just make it an exercise of control, it's horrible. If you're just trying to control your mind for 45 minutes, and we've all tried that, right? It's wretched, because you lose every time. But investigation or contemplation isn't a control, it's an awakening. And then you watch, and so like I noticed some people were sleepy. And this is a common sort of situation. So just, sleepiness, that comes up, you have to learn about it. So what do? Well, like, just one recommendation while I'm at it is like, just try making sleepiness the object of awareness rather than trying to get rid of it. And then when you recognize those dullnesses there, then do deep breathing with dullness as the object of awareness. Get that? So when you're feeling dull, that's different than when you're feeling energetic, right? When you're feeling dull, it's different than when you're feeling annoyed. So that's a mood of the mind. And the mood of the mind is like porridge. It wants to annihilate consciousness. And it's thick. And it takes and gravity starts to win, and it takes your chin to your chest and all the rest of it. And if you're not careful, you'll bump your head on the floor. So then you have to recognize that. And that's the contemplative mind, rather than, I have to try harder. Open your eyes, look at the Buddha, look at a candle flame, you pop your eyes open. Usually that doesn't work, because it's willpower, it's not wisdom. Willpower is fine if it's with wisdom, but if it's just with some attempt to conquer Mara, the sleepy one, you won't win. So what you have to do is you make conscious. Sleepiness is like this, and it's like that. And then you apply some method. Deep breathing is great. And then deep breathing for 45 minutes. Not just like a few deep breaths, so that should do it. back to sleeping. So there's certainly effort, right? There's effort, but it's done from the contemplative mind, from the aware mind, rather than the averse mind. I'm trying to get rid of the sleepiness. I have a sleepiness problem, deep problem. I need therapy or whatever. No, sleepiness is this way. It's a dharma. It feels this way. And how can I stay aware with sleepiness? Oh, nice challenge. And then it's different. Then it's not like just trying to kill this thing off, like this horrible. I mean, you have to notice that you're sleepy. That can be a problem for some people. Then what do you do then? Well, the recommendation I had when I was going through my sleepiness thing, you put yourself in front of a mirror, set your clock for 10 minutes, and then at 10 minutes, open your eyes. And if your face is looking at the floor, you've got a sleepiness problem. It actually happened to me, as you know, those of you who've done my retreats. Someone told me, Viradhammo, you got a lot of sleepiness. I said, no, I'm not. Very proud young monk. And then I knew that they were right. And then I did that and sat myself in front of a mirror, and then I was shocked. I went, wow. And that shock helped me. Hey, you got to try harder. You got to put more effort forward. And then I tried to conquer, with willpower. No. And that was just aversion. And that didn't work. And then I felt even worse. And then I began to say, no, it's about awareness. Okay, what is sleepiness like? Obviously, I mean, it's so easy. And then the deep breathing is a very good insight that because you want to be, as I want to be aware with sound, I want to be aware with bodily feeling, right? It's the same awareness. Then aware with sleepiness. Now that's interesting because that's very hard. And then it's fine if you do the deep breathing, then the kind of quagmire, porridge nature of the sleepiness, eventually it relaxes away. Unless you're really exhausted, then you go to sleep. And that's a very helpful, obviously very important insight. And once you get that kind of insight around like one of these hindrances, then it's forever good because that hindrance can come up alone. And you see the difference between being tired and being kind of overwhelmed by that. So all the hindrances to meditation that we go through are like that. It's like, how can I be aware with the hindrance, with restlessness, with annoyance, with whatever? Because these are dharmas that come and go, and what we want to sustain is awareness, that silent knowing. Okay, that's some ideas you might think about. I'll end that.